this giant blind leap of faith until my hand cramps and falls off. Make some kind of sense of them.
I'm a little surprised by how good this is going.
Hi, good morning. It's 7:30 in the morning and I'm meeting my friends today at the refectory. It's this great little place around the corner from here. It has a cafe, it has really good food. I'm meeting my two friends. One is a writer and the other one is an artist. My writer friend has written 35 books and her 36th book is coming out next year. So I'm really lucky to have such a great mentor and friend to help me through this process. She's the one that actually gave me the little push off the cliff in order to write this book. So I'm meeting them. I wrote my synopsis and my first 3 chapters. And she's just going to read a bit of my writing and my synopsis and let me know what she thinks. So I wrote 6,708 words. So I'm really proud of myself. I've also analyzed 3 movies. It was already really helpful, just those 3 movies, to kind of remind myself what those beats are and try to tease out what they are and why the characters are making choices the way they're making choices. So that was really good. So I did get 3 done this week. I'm hoping to get done the rest of the 10 maybe in the next 2 weeks. I also got a really good idea while filling out these note cards. So I'm using kind of note cards for my movies and just kind of writing out those main beats. But I have all of these notes on my phone that I've been keeping for months, and all of my ideas for this book is in this notepad on my phone. And I need to organize them somehow. So I think what I'm going to do is write each bullet point or each groups of bullet points, if it makes sense to put them together, on a note card. And then that way I can shush the note cards around all over the place and hopefully get my thoughts in kind of a more coherent way. And I was even thinking that maybe those main beats could be kind of like a stack of cards. And I think in that way I can break the story up into like 9 parts or so. And that would be really helpful. And that kind of feeds into Save the Cat, which I haven't started yet, which is the next book I'm going to read in my writer's education book series. So I think that that would really help too, because I think Save the Cat breaks out those beats also in like a certain way. So I'm going to look at that as well. Anyway, let's go to the refectory and see what my friend has to say about the writing. Hi, I just got home. It is 4:30 now. I picked up my kids and I spent all day today at the refectory with my friends. And in particular, I really wanted to chat with my friend who gave me feedback. I was really worried when I handed her my synopsis that she was going to tell me that it was too complicated for a first book. But she knows me really well and she listened to how excited I was about the project. And she says that that matters more than anything. And she really liked the idea. She read my first chapter and said that I have a really good voice and that I can write, which is a huge compliment. I was writing in places. There were a lot of short staccato sentences. There were too many metaphors. So, that stung a little bit, but this feedback is really useful. And I'm used to getting feedback that I can use as constructive criticism. So now that I know those things, I can go to the other 2 chapters that I have already written and edit them with some of her feedback. And I'm hoping that that will make them that much stronger. And granted, this is a first draft, so I'm still learning a lot and we need to truck through and get to the end. But these things are really helpful as I move forward. One of the big compliments that she gave me were that my metaphors were really unique and original. I tend to think in visuals and think in metaphor. And it was a really big compliment when she told me that my metaphors were authentic and original. So we also talked about how she sets up her Scrivener for workflow. I believe it's a page, but she creates an individual page per scene, particularly in the beginning. And then you can kind of shush those scenes around if you want to change the order of your book. And then I'm going to just number them for right now because I don't want to be bothered with chapter titles and I can kind of get there more quickly, I think. But I might put like a little descriptor of what the chapter is. It was really helpful to get all this insider information today that I can apply going forward on my book. But right now it's back to real life. I need to go make dinner and hopefully I'll get a chance to work later on tonight. So I have good news today. It's been in the works for a couple weeks, but my in-laws are going to be picking up my kids from school and taking them to their extracurricular now on Tuesdays. And because I work from home, I was able to kind of shush around my schedule and make it so Tuesdays are completely empty and kind of move the stuff to other days. And so now Tuesdays are going to be my craft days. I really want to dig in deep on Tuesdays because I'll have from 9 until when my kids get home at 6, which gives me a really big window of time to work in. And I feel so incredibly blessed and thankful for them for helping with this project. The big problem I want to tackle today are these ideas on my phone and the note cards. So I'm going to spend most of today until my hand cramps and falls off writing these note cards. I might take a couple breaks, maybe take a walk or something in between, but if I can get through a good chunk of those notes and get them onto note cards, I can then start organizing things, because right now it is just a huge jumble and it feels very daunting when I look at that many bullet points on my phone and this little screen, trying to figure out what the story is underneath all of that. And I know I can excavate it, I just need to see it better. So I'm gonna go work on that today.
It's 5 o'clock and I'm done writing note cards for today. My hand is about to fall off, but I got a significant amount of the note cards done and I had this gigantic stack. What's really great though is it's helping me get a little bit more clear on the themes of the book. And I think writing early in Act 1 is going to be really easy because it's kind of just setting up the world. And I think that's what I'm the most clear on, which is why I can go ahead and start writing the book as I'm starting to kind of try to figure out this process of organizing my ideas for the rest of the book. But I can already see it's getting me past that stuck feeling that I was getting intimidated by in the beginning. It was just such a mountain of information. And by putting them on these note cards, even though it is a pretty big stack, it still feels kind of more accessible or even more processed just by me rewriting them all out. But I'm tired of writing for right now. I also did get some typing done. So I really like the dial in Scrivener, which is the application I'm using right now to write the book. There's like this circle with kind of where you wrote today if you reset it every day, or how far you are to kind of reaching your ultimate goal. And my ultimate goal for this book for a debut novel is 100,000 words. And so I really love that. I'm not trying to analyze my writing too much. That can happen in edits later. I'm just trying to get this book out of me and see what I actually have. It's late, so I'm going to stop writing right now and I'm going to go curl up with Save the Cat and do a little bit more reading. Hi, so I've been sitting and writing a lot. My body is starting to form itself into a chair. It's a beautiful spring day today, so I thought I would go outside and take a walk. One of my favorite ways to brainstorm is while I'm walking. I really like my notes app on my phone. I find body movement helps me think. And so I'm going to spend some time giving myself some brain space and some exercise, and then also thinking about the book. I'm back from my walk and I'm ready to get back to work. I was thinking about a conversation I had yesterday. I was discussing with my friend who lives in another state. She's an English major and we've been having a lot of nerdy conversations about how I feel like this book is going to come out and the characters. And one of the things I mentioned was a main character who goes into a coma. And my friend mentioned the story about Rosemary Kennedy, which I had no idea about. So I'm going to do some research on that. Apparently she goes into a coma, and I love when things have double meaning, so I definitely want to look into that. And that also got me thinking about characters and how they mirror each other. Particularly in my book, I'm writing a psychological book, and it's based on some Carl Jung philosophies. And so I thought I would do something like a color wheel, but with a character wheel, and look at their goals and their motivations, what they want, why they want them. character study I did today was really helpful. I did my main character in the center and then any secondary or tertiary characters around on the outside of that. Then I recorded their relationships, wounds, intentions, and mirrored flaws. This early on, it's definitely a working model, but doing this kind of intentional work really helps me understand my characters beyond kind of just this intuition. And I think things like this character wheel are going to really help with that. I finished my research on Rosemary Kennedy, and I had no idea that she even existed or that she had such a tragic backstory. Growing up in the United States, I've heard a lot about the Kennedys. When I was a kid, I used to get compared to Jackie Onassis sometimes because of her wide-spaced eyes, and she married a Kennedy, but I had no idea that they had a sister. She suffered a mental illness and then was coerced into getting a lobotomy, which removed part of her frontal lobe, and that left her kind of at a 4-year-old mentality for the rest of her life. So my character in my book is in a coma, and it's a very tragic story as well, a very tragic family story. And so I'm going to be using Rosemary as her name, and I really like that double meaning. I've been able to get quite a bit of reading done in our book for this week, Save the Cat. I'm about 3/4 of the way through. I'm really enjoying it. I like all of the examples that they have in it. And so we can see different ways that these various stories kind of fit into this structure, even though they might look really different on the outside. When you analyze them, like at their core, they're still the same point. And that's really helping me with doing the movies on my own. So I've now finished 6 of the 10 movies that I wanted to complete. And I think that coupled with this book is a really kind of good marriage because it's allowing me to put some of these practices into use on my own as I'm reading. I also have some really exciting news. So I was able to finish all of the note cards taken from my phone and then put onto these various note cards. And I have a gigantic stack. It's a little daunting because I know that there's a book in there. I just don't know how I'm going to see it. So I'm a little intimidated by how many note cards there are, but we're going to do our best today. I'm going to set up my own system, kind of a 3-act structure broken into 4 points and maybe the midpoint. And then I'm going to also kind of layer on top Save the Cat. So I'll put a diagram up here, but Save the Cat basically has these 9, I believe, beats that every story kind of falls into. And so I want to make sure that I'm kind of interweaving this 3-act structure with that. And I think that that would really help me, at least in the beginning, to kind of get some guardrails on what this idea is. One of the things from creating something from scratch is it's this giant blind leap of faith. I basically have to trust the process and trust that if I continue working hard and if I continue learning, then I can kind of chip away small pieces. Because if you look at this giant thing at the end, it's just too hard. And so when I get a little intimidated, it's hard to know where to take that next step. And I just need to focus on the next thing, which is to organize these cards.
There's a lot of note cards here.
Hi, it's now 1 o'clock in the morning, but I just finished sorting all of the note cards. They look beautiful. I was able to sort them into the 3-act structure across the top. So I have Act 1, Act 2A, midpoint, Act 2B, and Act 3. And then I put in the 15 points from the Save the Cat book on their structure. With that framework set up, I was able to slowly start sorting the note cards. It took a long time. At first, I kind of just sorted them into the acts. And then once I had each act sorted, I went through each act and sorted them into the 15-act structure of the Save the Cat. I found it super helpful. So now I can finally see kind of where the bones of the story is, where there might need to be a little bit more thought going into, especially Act 3, because I noticed that in Act 1 and Act 2, the note card stacks are quite thick compared to Act 3 where they're a little thinner. And I think that's just because those ideas are a little bit more fleshed out and I know a little bit more about what I want to do. And Act 3 is kind of a little weaker. The good news is that I had cards for every single stack. So I think that shows that the story at least has pretty good structure. And it's going to help me so much with writing the rest of this book because now I can kind of see it more clearly. Where before all the ideas were kind of jumbled up, now they're in specific piles. And then I can take those piles and say, okay, what scenes do I need to do? Or what do my characters need to do in order to get from this stack to this stack? There's still so much to do, but with these cards sorted and the character wheel that we did earlier, I feel like I'm in a much better place and I understand what I'm trying to get done in this book. Anyway, it's late. I'm going to bed.
Hi, so I finished my sample cards from my movie series that I was doing. I did 10 movies. I found this was really, really helpful. And I did put them in a 3-4 act structure. I look at it as Act 1, Act 2A with the midpoint, then Act 2B, and then Act 3. So I did put it in that, but then I also put it in the Save the Cat structure. So I finished this book. I really, really liked it. I liked all the examples that it had in it. I liked the diagrams that it had in it. I felt like it was really helpful to understand the why of how a lot of things can fit into a structure. So I went to art school. I think also knowing what the rules are and then breaking them intentionally is different than not knowing any of the rules or not caring about how things are structured typically and breaking them because you don't know any better. So I think one is intentional and you're doing it on purpose. And the other one is kind of, oops, I'm doing it this way because I have no idea what I'm doing. So I really liked this book a lot. I felt like it was really helpful. It was a really quick read. I felt like the writing was really easy to understand. So really great beginner's book. A lot of value into doing it myself and then reading about it in the book. I think it's different for me in particular doing versus just reading about it. So I felt like these two things combined was super helpful.
During the week, I get a lot of writing done. I usually get 2 windows that I've been working in, one in the morning while the kids are at school around my other job, and then the other in the evening because my husband works. We live on the East Coast and he works West Coast time, so he's usually working till about 10. So from about 8 o'clock when I put my kids to bed till about 10, I have another kind of window. And we're night owls, so we usually stay up till 12 or 1. So that gives me another good chunk of time to get some work done. On the weekends is a different story because my kids are home and we're usually running around doing things. But today, my sister-in-law offered to pick up my kids and take them strawberry picking. So I'm hoping to get a ton of work done today. My plan is to write all day. So let's see what we can get done. This week, the book felt like it really came into focus. Between organizing all of those note cards and the character study and writing a little bit more of the chapters out, I feel like I am finally understanding a little bit more of the book. In the beginning, when you're creating something brand new, I often feel like I'm walking through quicksand and you're trying to find solid footing, but every step you take kind of feels really loose and nothing in the world or the characters feel very solid. But with all the work that I did this week, I feel like I'm finally maybe not on solid footing, but at least feeling like I'm a little bit more stable. I was able to write quite a bit of Act 1 this week. The book is now sitting at 15,804 words. So I'm really proud of that. I'm really liking how Act 1 is shaping up. But from what I've read and what I've heard, Act 1 is often the easiest for people to write. So I'm trying to be positive and temper my expectations. It's kind of this balancing act between I'm like trying to like, oh, you're doing really good, keep going, encouraging on one side, but on the other side, I'm like, there's still a lot of hard work coming. And just because this is coming really easy doesn't mean future chapters or future acts are going to be easy. So it's kind of this really weird balance between those two. It does feel really good to see that forward momentum though. I also finished Save the Cat and I really liked it. I think that for somebody who knows a lot more about writing, maybe it wouldn't be as good but for a beginner who wanted to learn how to break a book or break a movie down into those act structures, I thought it was really great. I loved all of the examples and I thought it was pretty well written. I did actually use the template in the Save the Cat to help me organize the note cards that are back there. And I found that kind of referencing those examples a couple of times while I was working through my book and also using it to analyze movies so I can kind of put into practice what I'm learning, I thought helped so much. As an artist and as a traditionally trained artist, I spent years learning anatomy and structure and composition. And I think understanding those basics is really important. So when you do break a rule or you are going outside of the box, you know why you're going outside the box and you know you're doing it for a reason. I don't think it's a good thing as kind of this cookie cutter template that everything has to connect the dots and everything has to be perfectly within page numbers or anything like that. But I think understanding like a general story structure helps a lot. The trick for me with books like using Save the Cat is to understand when to use the craft and when to lean into the creativity. And I think that that's really important so you don't stifle creativity and originality. For the first time with the book, I'm not guessing, I can actually see it. Thank you so much for being here this week. I really appreciate you. I hope you enjoyed this vlog and I'll see you again next week.